Hi, everybody. I'm Alex Palt. Welcome to another episode of Talking Timepieces, where we talk about watch collecting and horology. Today, I wanted to talk about integrated bracelets and the like. And speaking of bracelets, my local Junghans dealer is retiring, and he's a independent dealer, so he's selling all of his inventory. I actually really, really wanted to buy one of his Zinn watches. Um, Die Problem, wenn man Deutsch spricht, ist, dass man spricht dann Englisch für alles, wenn man English spricht. What I was saying is that since I speak German, when think sin in my head, I always say the S when I'm saying it in English. Aber wenn ich Sinn sagen, then pronounce it properly when I'm speaking it in German. So mea culpa if I make the mistake of calling it sin while I'm talking about it in English. Um, but he is a Junghans dealer, and I managed to get the Milanese bracelet for my chronoscope. And normally this is like $100 strap, but since he's going out of business, I got it for half price, $50. So now I have a nice Milanese. Now, speaking of integrated bracelets, let's just talk a little bit about just the term, just to make sure we know what we're talking about going into things. Because if you think about it, most modern watches with metal bracelets have at least sculpted end links to fit up tight against the case. The only watch types that we find today really that with metal bracelets that don't go up against the case are, your Milanese. And that's probably more because in order to create a curved end, you'd have to literally cut the links and sculpt and craft the end, which would increase the cost of manufacturing the bracelet. And it's just cheaper to lop it off, straighten, weld or solder a tube across for the pin bar, spring bar. So, and the Milanese looks fine like that anyway. But I mean, I wonder if somebody made a conformal Milanese, but it would still have to have probably get away with it if you had a solid end link with like either a Milanese pattern well made into it or a Milanese bracelet like soldered to it and then polished off to make sure that it was rounded like the end link. I wouldn't mind seeing a conformal Milanese, would you? But yeah, so when I'm saying integrated bracelet, I don't mean, a well integrated conformal bracelet like this, because this is a standard 20 millimeter lug. I could take this bracelet off. Well, no, actually, this isn't. The new Air King is a 21, but I could put a 21 millimeter strap on this, whereas most integrated bracelet watches need their own bracelet replacement, or can't take a bracelet replacement at all. So just to say, so when I'm talking about an integrated bracelet watch, I'm talking about a watch where the bracelet is so intrinsic to the case design and um, manufacturing integration that it's essentially part of the case, a bracelet watch, as it were. Okay, so that when we talk about this, so when say integrated bracelets downstream in this conversation, we know that I'm talking about that specific kind of integrated bracelet. Hey, Johnny, how you doing today? Went with my girlfriend for a stroll in Old Montreal. Very nice. Now it's time for a cool microbrewery beer. See, then what you do is you take a shot with the beer and you hashtag the brewery, and they'll repost your watch image because their beer's in it. Wristwatch check. I'm wearing my Globemaster annual calendar, and I put it on a rubber strap, which finally, I always wanted a more sporty alternative to the very, very, very dressy alligator that Omega provides with it. The factory is light brown, which makes it more casual, but I don't like light brown leather. So I put light blue leather on it, and it still well. The light blue makes it look a little too uh, color crazy in that sense. Whereas I get away with it I think I get away with it with the JLC with a color matched alligator, but I think, the color matched, well, no, well, number 1, the color matched leather strap I found isn't real alligator, it's stamped, and the Omega alligator is either black or almost blue to the I mean, navy to the point of being black. Um, so it is hard to find a light blue, and I wasn't willing to shell out another chunk of money like I did for the JLC, but the blue rubber is perfect for a sporty strap. When I wanna wear it with a suit, I'll put it back on the alligator, but for, like, knocking around, this is a I really I'm not a big rubber strap fan, and I'm still getting used to the way it feels on my wrist, but it does, flatter the watch, at least in my opinion. So, James, hey, James, how you doing, my friend? Happy Sunday. Wearing my Tudor North flag for the I keep thinking about getting a North flag. If I came across one at a reasonable price, I would probably take it because it was the first in-house Tudor movement. It has a display back to show that part off. It's a very tooly watch, almost an explorer-esque kind of thing, but it has its own identity. I really, really like the North flag. I wish the accent color was, different, but I will, yellow's not bad, and the North flag is a really nice watch. Let's see, um, James and Johnny, Superfly Micros, how's it going? Big fan of the North flag, James. I have on a Dorenzo '04 for the topic, LOL. Well, you know, we're here to talk about watches, right? And the more you talk, the more you comment, the more interesting this show is because, I mean, I could talk at the microphone all day, but until it actually reaches something that you feel interested enough in to comment on and create a dialogue, then, you know, uh, I could be in an empty room for all it's concerned. The important aspect of this show is you and your thoughts. So, oh, and one last thing. I've been having a blast doing these. I started a playlist on this channel called Cheap Watch Choices, and I've been going over Amazon and looking for just like inexpensive but interesting, either like interesting because it's really weird or dumb, or interesting because they don't actually do a bad job, like this Nibosi watch, which is obviously a Chaikin, Constantine Chaikin homage, and the tongue is just a pendulum. That's why I'm shaking it like that. The tongue is just a pendulum. On the real one, it's a moon phase. And see, this is an homage. It's not a fake. It's not a copy. I mean, it is a copy, but it says Nibosi right across the forehead of this instead of Constantine Chaikin. It's their own watch. And it even says it across the back in bold letters, Nibosi. So that's the big difference between a fake and an homage. This is legitimate and legal and fun, whereas if they put a little bit more detail into it and tried to sell it as a fake Constantine Chaikin, well, it'd be intellectual property theft. This is just intellectual property borrowing. Everyone knows this isn't the 60, $80,000 piece that it is pretending to be. Can you hear the tongue clicking back and forth in there? But I'm having fun with these dumb little watches, and I think I'm going to keep this one. So far, what I've been doing is I do the episode, and then when I go out that evening, I give it away at my local bar to somebody just to promote the fact that I'm a watch guy, because I also buy and sell. So some of the regulars at the bar now have free $20 watches. But I'm having a lot of fun with that channel. And if you like that aspect, let me know, and I'll look into more interesting pieces. I want to keep below $50 a watch with this new um, playlist side channel. Because I really want them to be fun pieces that are, inexpensive enough that you could either wear them as a beater or give them as a novelty gift. Or in some of these cases, these watches, like this is definitely going to be my Fasching, my German Carnival watch. I'm going to wear this watch on Carnival and on Halloween. I now have a novelty watch that actually I don't feel is. I mean, well, it's very cartoony, but it's cartoony in a horologically attractive way. I don't know if you're familiar with the way these watches work of this type with the eyes. One eye is the hours and the other eye are the minutes. So it's not like a binary watch where you have to like learn math to use properly. It can be read if you just know which eye is hours and which eye is minutes, and it's plainly labeled. So the right eye is the hours and the left eye are the minutes. It doesn't have a moon phase. It just has this tongue thing flopping back and forth. So actually, if you think about it, it's quite simple. It's just got two crowns and two wheels. As a quartz watch, you don't really need, a second hand or a running indicator. So perfect example of a watch for the channel, for the cheap watch choices channel. I do have a review of the Moon Swatch mission to Saturn that I picked up recently. There was literally a line at the Swatch store last week when I went to the Swatch store in Frankfurt. There was a line about 10 people deep, which I was surprised at this point in time in the Swatch cycle. And I went in and the guy said, "Yeah, do you want to see our moon swatches?" I said, "Well, I thought there was a line," because I went and did other things and I came back and the line was gone because I just needed batteries. And so, because my friends always give me stuff to do when it comes to watches, and since Swatch does the watches for free, I figured let me go ahead and just change the batteries for them because it wouldn't cost me anything, and I figured I'd go and look around anyway. And so he said, "Hey, you want to see our moon swatches?" And I said, "Well, I saw the line. I thought they were all gone." He goes, "No, no, no. They were just in line for the popular ones." And that makes sense now. The moment he said that, it clicked because, yeah, people aren't waiting in line now to buy a moon swatch. They're waiting in line to get a mission to Mars. I mean, not mission to Mars, to get a mission to Mercury, to get a mission to the moon. I like the mission to Mars. I own one myself. I now have a mission to Saturn and a mission to Mars. I had a mission to Jupiter and sold it. I'm going to buy one or two others, but I want to get the funky colored ones, because I don't want to pretend I have a Speedmaster because I have a Speedmaster. I want the moon swatches that look funky and are cool and have rings on the face and the mission to Mars is actually also an homage to the Alaska project. If you look at the subdial pointers. So let's see. I love it. It's scrolling so nicely. Everybody, hey, how's it going, Gian? Everybody's making nice comments. I love it when we get a healthy conversation. Johnny, another touchy bracelet subject. Titanium, almost black case. Hard time finding a matching bracelet. Wearing a vintage Wittenauer. Well, NATO straps are your friend. You can always go to a NATO strap, right? You can always put a NATO strap on. Well, if it has even a remotely standard lug width, because James Bond, when he wore his NATO on his sub in Doctor No, it was smaller than the lug width. He was just using the NATO to hold the watch onto his wrist. He did put it on leather that evening with his tux, if you notice, or his suit. But in the daytime, he was just using the NATO to hold it on his wrist. He wasn't even worried about it matching up to the lug width. He just wanted a functional strap that he could get wet. And he had leather instead of metal because he was wearing a suit. And in those days, they didn't wear metal bracelets on watches with suits because leather is considered more dressy. So you can always throw a NATO on. But if it has an integrated bracelet, and you don't like what they're using, like some companies now have, like, what if you don't like rubber and there's an integrated rubber bracelet? Or what if you wanted to put it on leather, but it has an integrated metal bracelet and you can't change it out? Some companies will give you, like in the case of the Frederic Constant High Life, it comes with, I believe it's sailcloth, leather, and metal, all quick release. The Longines Zulu Time is available with a leather strap quick release. And the Zulu Time actually has standard lugs. It just has a quick release system that mates into a standard lug system, which I think is the best of both worlds. You have a semi-integrated bracelet where the bracelet fits nicely into the case, but it's a standard lug width and pin spacing, because that's the other side of the coin. It's bad enough that the JLC Polaris, it's bad enough that this is a 21 millimeter lug width, but it's also the lug holes are so tight up against the case. I mean, it makes the lugs curve down really nicely and sharply, but the only metal bracelet that fits this watch is the factory metal bracelet. I have to use curved spring bars to get this leather on. But that's why I went through all the trouble to make sure I got a decent, strap to go with this, because if I can't, I mean, I'm not gonna pay. I should have bought it last year when it was 15. The price has gone up. It's 2,200 now for the metal bracelet for this, just for the metal bracelet. So, worth the trouble to get a good alligator to fit it well, because it's never gonna see a metal bracelet as long as I own it, because I don't have that kind of money. At least I don't have that kind of money to spend on a bracelet. So but yeah, Johnny, I would say, and when you're talking about that, rubber can help too, because people don't expect rubber to match the bracelet exactly. If it's a black rubber, it'll work with a black case, regardless of the texture of the case, because the eye doesn't expect the rubber to match the case. Um, yeah, that'd be about what I would suggest, something like that, either rubber or NATO. Because unless they make the bracelet specifically for that, when you're making a non-standard color case, it's almost impossible to get a match. When I say non-standard color, in other words, like titanium comes in a dozen different shades depending on how they finish it and how they deal with it. Even a matte finish steel, is it bead blasted, tegamented? Is it brushed? It is getting good bracelet matching is tough, and that's one of the reasons also why I'm a big advocate for, swapping straps around and using interesting things like a contrasting color, or a NATO strap that has the case color as the primary color, but interesting secondary colors and stripes to bring out, maybe there are secondary colors on the dial, like, what's the highlight color for the indices or something. A lot of ways to play with that. We're a quarter into and we haven't even started the subject. I always like it when we get starting with a nice conversation, and before we even get into the main conversation. Uh-oh, the mic is off. What happened? The video quality is all right. Just the voice. The mic is dodgy. Uh-oh. All right, how's it sounding? I'm playing with it a little bit here, pushed in and make sure all the cables are well seated. I'm getting the lights on the amplifier. How's it sound now? I turned up the gain a little bit too. How's that? Okay, sounds fine now. Okay, excellent. It was probably the connection more than the, amp, I think, but never know. Let me scroll back up to the top of the comments. Like I said, I love it when I actually have to scroll up on the comments. That means, we're getting such a nice conversation. It's scrolling well. Johnny's wearing a vintage Wittenauer. Very cool, my friend. A name that, sadly, because they kinda went cheap during the quartz wars, Wittenauer is a really good name, has a great history. I would really like to see somebody take that company back up to the levels it used to be at. There are so many companies being rejuvenated now. Wittenauer's turn's coming. Why not? Um, let's see. Richard. Hey, Richard. Richard Jones. Hi, Johnny. Watching from the UK. I have the Maurice Lacroix icon in blue. My wife has the white and baby blue. Other integrated watches I have is a Tudor Royal 38 and some Autodromo Group Bs. Well, the image I have as the teaser for the episode is the Tide, the blue, Maurice Lacroix Tide. That's made with recycled ocean plastic, by the way, and it's a sapphire crystal, so it's one of the, unusual ones in that it's got a plastic case, or like, some kind of composite plastic case, plastic-based case, but it uses recycled ocean plastic for that plastic base, and it has quick change integrated bracelets and a sapphire crystal, which is unusual for a plastic watch. I think I said that already, but, just to retread that. So it's a really good, sports watch alternative. The only thing I didn't like about it is they could have put a more robust quartz movement in it. They put I mean, a pedestrian quartz movement in it, and it just doesn't need anything too fancy. But they're charging almost $800 for that thing, and I had expected to see a little bit better movement in it for that price. They could have then, from what I've seen of that watch, the Tide. I just recently sold the Maurice Lacroix GMT, the Icon GMT. I owned one, great pieces, the steel ones. The Tide is a great piece too, but it's just a little overpriced. It's worth 500, not 7 and change. But I haven't seen it used lately. I haven't looked for it, but you probably can get it used for about that price, but I don't know. I gave mine to my oldest daughter. She likes it a lot. But Maurice Lacroix makes some really nice stuff. I'm really trying to find. I'm thinking if I can get one at a good price. I like that new open heart with the small hours and minutes display and the large open work escapement wheel. I mean, not escapement wheel, balance wheel. Yeah, that's a really beautiful piece. That new one, the icon, that new icon. But they went like 7 and change new for it. Keep my eyes open. Maybe I can find it for 5 or 5 and change, maybe. But I'm patient. I can wait a few years. Always keep an eye out for watches. You never know when you may come across one at a good price. I actually came across this one on sale. I bought this one 3 years ago, 4 years ago for about 55, and I saw it on sale for 65 and change. And that just shows you that, even on the use, well, this was stock, display stock that they were clearing, so it wasn't really used, but clearance, retail clearance, 30% off. But that goes in cycles because, like I said, but I also bought it. Those were in 2 different stores, so they may have had a larger inventory of that watch. And when they got down to 1 or 2, they pushed them out the front door. But the fact that retail pricing on watches is creeping up, that's something I have to address in another episode. So James is saying, Richard, I've been eyeing the Autodromo Group B for years. It is a nice piece. I love the 70s, 80s racing design. Richard, I'm wearing the Group B Aqua now on their yellow single pass strap. Awesome watch. I agree. Thomas Van Strick. Hello. Hey, how's it going? Nice to see a Maurice Lacroix in my stream. Yeah, I do. The GMT. I really like the Icon GMT because the one thing I don't like about the Icon is I think the bezel's trying too hard. And in the GMT, it's got, the second time zone engraved into it, which gives you a perfect excuse to have this big chunky bezel on this cool looking sports watch. And I mean, the Icon GMT, if I were going to get another one and I wasn't going to get the open heart, I would get another GMT, a new Icon. It's an office GMT, but the GMT hand is independently settable, and the bracelet. The Icon bracelet is awesome. I sold it to the owner of my favorite bar. He always wanted an AP, and when I showed him the Icon GMT, he fell in love with it, and so I let him buy it because never hurts to build a good relationship with the owner of your favorite bar. But the Icon is a really great line. It's interesting that there are new modern classics. Well, I shouldn't say unfortunately. Interestingly enough, which is one of the reasons that this topic today is they're integrated bracelets. The Icon is an integrated bracelet. The PRX is an integrated bracelet. There are interesting aspects. Now, I actually took notes because I wanted to talk exactly about Genta and his legacy. And he made his first design when he was 23 years old in 1954. And it's one of his most iconic designs, and it is not an integrated bracelet. And I bet you if you challenge people, because he actually has quite a few, but not that many, enough to memorize. And if you asked people what his first design was, some would tell you it's the pole router, because it is. But when you say pole router, people's eyes light up and they go, "Oh yeah, the pole router," because it is a classic piece, but it's not one that immediately jumps to mind when you think of Gerald Genta. And the pole router was not an integrated bracelet. Neither was his second major watch design, which was the Omega Constellation in 1959. The Pipan dial is still used to this day on the Globemaster. To this day. Let's see. Um, James, I think a true integrated bracelet shows the brand and designer's confidence in the watch design, and I respect the watch collector that recognizes that. Oh, I do as well. The only problem is then you really do need a collection, because an integrated bracelet watch is not perfect for every circumstance, because of the fact that you can't. I mean, nowadays you can get away with wearing a metal bracelet with a suit, right? But some people, I mean, me personally, it bothers me to wear a metal bracelet with a suit. I'd rather swap it out for a leather. I've got alligator straps for all of my major watches and metal, so I can go back and forth. I like integrated bracelets. Several of the watches I've owned over the years, one of my most favorite pieces, my Oyster Quartz, is an integrated bracelet, which was based on the first generation Genta design that he made for Rolex. A lot of people think that the Oyster Quartz was designed by Genta, and the watch that the Oyster Quartz is based on was designed by Genta. And he created the Royal Oak 16 years after the pole router in 1970. Then he made the Nautilus in 76, the Ingenieur in 76. And then, of course, he made the Bulgari, the Disney line, Pasha, Cartier. And now there are also a jillion just Genta-esque watches. Tudor and Citizens got them. Rovolo Universal just came out. Rovolo just came out with the Universal, which is a pole router lookalike, and that's actually getting a lot of attention because it's, I think, under $200. The Vacheron Constantin overseas, of course. I like the Yema Urban Traveler. I put a little note there about that one. The Edox Delphin, the Zenith Defy, the Frederic Constant High Life, which I mentioned earlier, Baume & Mercier, and others. And I have written here, toss notepad aside. But yeah, the integrated bracelet is obviously here to stay. It's been here before, and it's going to be here in the future, especially when we go closer and closer to more, well, as James had pointed out, brand identity, design, language. One of the things about the PRX that's instantly recognizable is its bracelet. I mean, it echoes, a Bulgari Octo, but not too many people have seen those in the flesh. I've only seen one in the flesh a few times, and I actively look for them. Doctor says that my uric acid levels are too high. I have to cut back on beer. But yeah, so integrated bracelets, in my mind, are a mixed blessing. They're really cool, but they do lock you into that look. And unless you're happy with that look, with all of your iterations of clothing and lifestyle, you're going to need to have at least one other watch for those other situations. What are your thoughts on that? Let's see. Thomas, just bought my first integrated bracelet watch after completing my master's in private law. Oh, hey, congratulations in completing your master's in private law last week. The Baume & Mercier Riviera with the Baumatic movement. Yeah, that's a nice watch. I agree with Johnny. Nice watch, good choice. That's a really nice piece. They also make a GMT. Lately I've been into GMTs. I don't know why. I mean, well, I travel a lot, but I don't know. As I get older, I guess GMT is a nice complication that I can easily see. I don't use my chronos very much anymore. And I used to be a heavy duty chrono guy. Well, in fact, the zin that I wanted to get from my local dealer that's going into retirement, I wanted to get the 140 ST, the spaceship zin. But Zen is going to take back all of their inventory, so he doesn't need to mark it down, which is actually a genius move on Zen's part. They control their inventory very tightly Maybe Rolex should get a tip from that. They control their inventory very tightly, so nobody can undercut their suggested retail price. I mean, you might be able to haggle within that, but you can't. You're starting at their suggested retail price because the dealers have no pressure to to sell at discount because Zinn takes those watches back. Other watch manufacturers might want to take a page from that. But then again, a lot of watchmakers are just pushing volume and they don't care what happens to the pieces after they leave the factory, which is why some watch companies are struggling to get their reputation back. And one of the ways they're doing it is they're restricting access. Like look at Oris, look at Nomos. Um, the gentleman who's retiring, he was a Nomos dealer. They cut him loose last year because there was already another Nomos dealer in town, which was a very posh dealer, Eppel in Wiesbaden, very rich city. And so they cut him loose to focus on the one store in that city. And better to be, the low brand in a flagship store for other companies than to be the high brand in a, local jewelry shop, sadly. But which actually I should look at because he does still have some Nomos pieces he's trying to get rid of, and now he's going out of business. So maybe I can pick up something that I would normally not get, like a Campus Club or something, one of their casual dress watches. The big problem I have with Nomos is they have humongous lugs. The lug length on Nomos watches is comical. I mean, these lugs are like comically long. Um, they work with my big wrists, but that's one of the reasons that I think that so many people like the smaller Nomos because even the skinny lugs on their casual watches are comically long. I'm surprised someone doesn't do mods by cutting them off at that little bend and drilling new holes in them or something, rounding them off, and, refinishing the ends. Because Nomos lugs are humongously long. They really are, but they make fantastic pieces. I really like this the Neomatic 42 I have. I really like this piece. I really like it a lot. The movement is gorgeous. It's incredibly legible. And as I always say with a well-made watch, a good luxury product is it's like a high-res image. The closer you look, the more you see. So, let's see. Richard, not been able to hear for a while. Okay, now, okay, sorry. Black leather rally strap transform my Tudor flyback chrono. Straps can totally change the nature of a watch. I recently was able to sell my Graham, and I managed to sell it because I put it on a Bund strap, and that really brought out the steampunky elements and the chunkiness of the piece. And I got somebody to get interested in it, and I was able to sell it just by changing the strap. Some watches really do change character when you change their straps. Some don't. Well, some are such a strap monster that they stand above the strap they're on, like the Speedmaster. You could put anything on a Speedmaster, but it's always still recognizable as a Speedmaster first. But you can put anything on a Speedmaster. Actually, you could almost put anything on this, except the lugs are so long. Because well, any good black and white watch can get away with a lot of different straps. I also picked up, by the way, a rubber strap for the Santos, something to make it because I wanted to dress it down because the Santos on a leather strap only really works with a suit, in my opinion, and the Santos on a metal strap makes it want to look like I want to go cruising at discos or something. It's too blingy for me. I know some people love a blingy watch, but for me, it's the watch. And so putting a watch like the Santos on and XL Chrono on a rubber strap, it fills up the visual space more with the huge lug openings. So I guess that works better than the NATO, but I think it looks fantastic on a NATO. But at least the rubber strap gets the approval of my watch friends who don't like NATO straps on expensive watches. So, James, I only expect. Oh, everyone's talking about the sound glitches. I apologize for the sound problems. I think, like I said, I think it was a web issue, not a microphone issue, but it could be. But like I said, the light on my amplifier keeps going on and off when I talk, so we shall see. Let's hope. Right. Integrated bracelets. James says integrated bracelets are like romantic partners with tattoos and piercings. After the first experience, one usually discovers it's no big deal and might even find a new favorite feature. Well, this is true. Well, integrated bracelets are, it really expresses the design language of that product, like you said earlier. It but it locks you into that design of that, for that bracelet. So you really have to like the bracelet when you buy the watch. I mean, it's almost like with Rolex, even though it's not an integrated bracelet, most people would be horrified at the thought of not wearing a Rolex with its metal bracelet. So you have to really like the metal bracelet on a Rolex, because you're probably going to leave it on the metal the whole time you own it. So you probably, but then again, most people like the bracelet. Rolex really makes a great bracelet. It's comfortable, good looking, and highly adjustable. Even the cheap ones have the flip lock. Um, so yeah, bracelets are cool, and a good bracelet can make a watch. But yeah, like I said, it is. To me, it's a mixed blessing. I mean, some integrated bracelet watches are awesome, but then it does lock you in. It locks you in worse than like a 21 millimeter lug width. Because if the company doesn't offer, for example, I had a Tissot PRX Auto. I wound up selling that, but I had a Tissot PRX Auto, and I was really thinking of holding on to it. But one of the reasons I wound up selling it is they make a leather quick release for the standard automatic, but they do not make a leather. At the time that I was looking, they did not make a quick release leather strap for the automatic, which is a different size than the case size is different. See, so the lug matchup being, an integrated design, the lug matchup to the case has to be exact. So the automatic leather bracelet does not fit the chronograph. I mean, yeah, the chronograph case. So there you have an integrated bracelet, but they don't offer alternatives to the user. Well, at least not now. They may, which would be great. Um, for example, the Maurice Lacroix, the icon, you can order a myriad of straps for the icon, leather and rubber and such. So they get plus points for that. So I say if it's an integrated bracelet system like the Frederic Constant High Life and such. Well, I mean, even some of the APs in this and the like offer interchangeable bracelets. Vacheron Constantin offers interchangeable bracelets. You could probably get alternate bracelets. Well, I know the Nautilus, you can get different bracelets. The Aquanaut, I think you can only get the rubber, but I believe you can get they should offer a metal for the Aquanaut. If they don't, when I see people cutting the rubber strap for an Aquanaut, I think, well, what happens if your grandkid has bigger wrists than you? If you're keeping the Patek for the next generation and you just lopped off a millimeter of the rubber strap, what happens if your great grandkids got thick wrists? You know, I don't think that the rubber strap on the Aquanaut was well designed. It should be able to be adjusted, so you still have rubber strap for future generations. Okay, let's see. Johnny, another integrated bracelet watch is the Able Discovery, circa 1970, 1980, often seen on Miami Vice actors. Well, yeah, because integrated bracelets are striking pieces. They're very visible. They video well, film well. Beautiful watch with finely finished movement hidden behind a solid stainless steel back. Well, back then, display backs weren't in. Display backs are very in now, because now that you have to show a mechanical watch is special. At least that's my primary theory. But yeah, a display back. But back in the day, you didn't have to show the movement. The reputation of the watchmaker carried the watch, and movement decoration was mostly for other watchmakers to show your professional skills to your peers, as it were. And of course, make a good piece because all of the things that you do to those movements have a purpose. The perlage and the wave and all are designed to trap microparticles, to reduce potential wear and to reduce reflections into the eye of the watchmaker when they're assembling and or servicing the watch. And they look nice too. But it has practical purposes. Gold chatons with heat blued screws, the chatons were originally used because the rubies that were used were raw, real rubies, and so even with polishing, may not be to the tolerances of the rest of your assembly, so you would put them in a gold collar so you could make that collar to the right exact size that's in your, bridge, and then you would secure them with, screws, and heat bluing also hardens and helps, reduce corrosion, it increased corrosion resistance in the steel. So everything that a watchmaker does to a movement has a purpose. And I'm personally glad that display cases have become popular. And I think some watches you can get retro, replacement display backs, and you might be able to, if you couldn't get a display back, maybe you can score a replacement metal back and then get a jeweler to put a window in it and keep one metal back for if you ever need a real sturdy metal back for the watch. But yeah, I like display backs. I think we talked about it in a previous episode. If not, we'll bring it up as a single topic in an upcoming episode. Let's see. Fellow collectors, fellow legends, exactly. This is a community. We're all people. I'm just a collector. This channel would be nothing without you. If it weren't for you subscribing, and please subscribe. Tell your friends. If it weren't for you subscribing, and if it weren't for you all participating here and asking cool questions and having all these great observations, like I said, I would just be sitting in a room yelling at the walls. Let's see. Oh, we've got about 20 minutes left in the show, so let's see if there are any new questions or comments or stuff. Um, Gian, GMTs are cool if you live on 2 countries, they come in handy. Well, me, I have family and business in the States, and I live in Germany. So, at the minimum, I'd be tracking 2 time zones. If you notice, I have New York, Frankfurt, and LA. I mean, in one sense, it's nice for the background for the show, but in reality, I actually pay attention to these clocks because my day job, I'm a, embedded technology journalist, trade journalist, for Electronic Design Magazine, well, Endeavor Business Media. So it's, Electronic Design Magazine, Microwaves and RF, Power and Motion, Machine Design, Military and Aviation Electronics, a bunch of different, trade technical publications. So I don't write about I mean, I don't write about the phone, I write about the microcontrollers and semiconductors and the like. That's why some of the videos in the archive are of me at trade shows talking to people about smartphone technology or, atomic clock tech, because I did it for my day job and I thought it'd be applicable for this channel. And so I'd throw some of that stuff on this side. But yeah, there's some really, really good reasons to have a GMT, even if you don't travel. That's why you buy what they call an office GMT, because then you change the GMT hand, so you change the other time zone that you're tracking. So let's say you're a bank trader, so you might want to know, what time is it because you're following something going on in Japan, or you want to change the GMT time to something you're following in, Germany or Brazil. Well, Brazil is the same time zone as New York, well, some parts of it, but having a GMT, you that's why they have what they call an office GMT and a travel GMT, because there are different reasons for needing to know 2 time zones. Get yourself a world time. Frederic Constant makes hands down the best world time for a reasonable price in the industry, and that's a beautiful world timer, and that you could just look at because it's cool. But again, if you're doing business around the world or if you're traveling, it's always useful. if only to admire the function. Worst case scenario, you set the GMT to local time and then you use it as a day night indicator, which is the original purpose for the GMT hand in the Explorer 2, the Rolex Explorer 2. It was intended for cave divers and people who worked in the Arctic or in submarines or any place where you couldn't see the sun and you didn't know if it was day or night. Well, I guess in a submarine you would because you had a duty station cycle. But in most other circumstances, remote military bunker, you know, it's always nice to know if it's day or night. Let's see. My Grail watch, Gian says again, my Grail watch would be the Longines 39 Zulu Time GMT. That's a great watch. That's really a great watch. And it's a rotating bezel GMT, which means you can do the math for a third time zone. And that could be on the fly. So you can do it for multiple third time zones. You just have to do the calculation at the time you want it. But you could track 2 time zones with the printed 24-hour uh, indices and the 12-hour indices, and then the bezel 24-hour dial could then be used to calculate the third time zone because it's rotating. And it's a true bidirectional bezel, not a diver's bezel converted to a GMT bezel, which is unfortunately the way a lot of them are. They only rotate, the bezels only rotate in one direction, showing their diver's roots as opposed to a bidirectional GMT bezel, which is how it should be, because you're not diving, so you don't have to worry about it rotating in the wrong direction. Let's see. James at Gian, that is a nice attainable grail. Yes, I agree with James. It is an attainable, it's a great watch, and it's you'll never need another one. I had the 42 millimeter, I sold it to a friend, and I almost regret selling it to him. I'm thinking about the new Aqua Racer GMT. I'm gonna look at that. But then I just heard they came out with the new Seiko Alpinist GMT, and I could use a good beater GMT because I have a Zen Compass GMT, but that's more of a novelty watch because you have, it's a little bit stacked and you move the dial and there's a real compass underneath. Um, so the Seiko Alpinist to me would be a good, banging around travel with GMT because I believe it's going to be like $1,200, whereas the Zulu Time is in the what, $3,000 to $3,500 range. So I got to think about that. Got to think about that a lot because I've got a IWC Sansupari GMT, and I've got oh, there it is. I was looking, this is a Navitimer GMT. You could see because it has the little red GMT hand on the face. And I've got a like I said, the Zen, and I've got the sub GMT. This was the first generation coaxial, so it even has a display back for the Daniels coaxial movement in it. So actually, I have a healthy number of GMTs, which is why I was looking for more of a beater GMT, something to wear in airports where I wasn't all that sure, how safe I would be. And yeah, I had thought about the Seiko GMT, the new one, the Seiko 5 GMT, and I actually bought one, did a review, but it's a little too big and chunky. I want something that looks a little more tight and sleek. You can get that in that kind of a design. Like I think for a sub for a diving watch, the Seamaster is a very nice compact, especially if you compare it to something big chunky bezel like the Captain Cook. The Captain Cook is trying really hard not to look like a Submariner. The Seamaster doesn't have to. And these are actually, I believe these are both 42 millimeters, but you can just see how the Captain Cook just wears humongous because of the way the face and bezel design are. I thought about selling it, but I decided to keep it because I actually like it. The Rado, it's grown on me. The Captain Cook Chrono, it really has grown on me. It's a nice piece. So let's see. Gian, I thought those clocks were just for show. No, I actually do look at them often to see what time it is and where my primary contact is in, Philadelphia, so East Coast, and then, the offices we have offices in California as well, and also, like I said, I have other clients. I'm also a tech writer, a freelance tech writer. If you know anybody who needs, embedded engineering articles written for, electronic design engineers, so I'm available. But, yeah, I actually do use these watches. I have a little weather station with an atomic clock. With the exception of these 3 clocks, all of the wall clocks in my house are all radio controlled, so I, can set my various mechanical pieces from a proper time reference. I don't have anything against electronic clocks. I just think they have a place on the wall. Oh, Johnny, will the new digital PRX integrated bracelet watch be a hit or a miss? I think it's gonna be complimentary. I think that the new one I just saw the review from the crazy watch collector, whatever his name was, the guy with the crazy hair and all. He's a good reviewer, by the way. He just has a nice shtick. And I agree with him to a degree. It'll sell some, but I think it will sell a reasonable number because there sadly are a lot of people who can't tell time with hands. They can tell time with digits. And why not have a cool looking watch that you can wear that you can read? There's no, I would like it if people could tell time with hands, but there's no stigma in society today not being able to tell time with hands because time is displayed digitally everywhere nowadays. And as long as you understand time, how you tell time is a different issue, you know? So, I think that the digital PRX will sell reasonably well. I don't think it'll be a blockbuster, but it'll fill out the family and it'll give people an additional alternative choice in a nice family of watches. As some have put it, Tissot is really mining the hell out of the family, but why not? I mean, if there are like people say, "Oh, Omega makes too many special editions." If people are buying them and there's a demand for them, why not make them? I wish that some of them may be a little bit more available than others. Um, More of the recent ones, for example, especially Snoopy related. But if you have people who are willing to buy what you're making, as long as it doesn't hurt people or is carcinogenic, well, I guess carcinogenic would hurt people. As long as it doesn't hurt people, sell it, make it, and sell it. Hurt people or the environment, and you can address environmental issues in manufacturing. With in more sophisticated manufacturing procedures and processes, whatever. So, James says, Johnny, I'm afraid Tissot might have gone too far with the digital. The retro digital market is incredibly niche. That aspect, I agree with you there, James. I don't think they're really shooting for the retro market. They're shooting for the modern market that wants a cool watch and can't tell time with hands. That sounds harsh, but I think that's the market they're targeting. People who want a cool watch and can't tell time with hands, sadly, or positively, um, because at least it's a watch. No, I actually, it's a time. It's timepiece jewelry. That's what I'll call things that don't have hands. It's timepiece jewelry, which it is. And as we were talking about integrated bracelets, the strength of the PRX is its bracelet and look. And now you have that bracelet and that look, and you can tell time on it, even if you can't tell time with hands. Gian, thanks for confirming the Zulu GMT for me. Of course, it's a great watch. Well worth it. Well worth it. Me personally, I'd go for the blue one, but that's just me. I love blue. Let's see. Johnny, the 10 millimiglia, the millimiglia watch, that's Chopard. Chopard makes the millimiglia. Works with the GMT due to the various time zones in Italy. Cool watch. Good point. Excellent point, my friend. Johnny, James, fully agree with you concerning the digital PRX. Like I said, I think it's not going to be a barn burner, but I don't think they're expecting it to be. I think it's fleshing out the family. It's giving them another face on the shelf in that sense. Let's see. Gee, and I'll stick to Longines. It is work Longines makes some fantastic pieces, they really do. Longines is my childhood memory watch. I'm from a third world Philippines, say developing country at least, or, emerging. And back then, I could only look at a Longines from the back of a Time Newsweek magazine. Well, there you go, you have one in reach. When you get it, have a beer. Uh, Gian, fast forward 3 decades, I'm now an NHS nurse in the UK, very cool, and can afford a Longines, getting the Spirit 42. Spirit family is a great family. Chrono's nice too. They just came out with a flyback. That Spirit, the Zulu's part of the Spirit family. Um, Great watches, really great watches. And that's an example of a family that doesn't have it has quick quick change, interchangeable bracelets, but they're not integrated. That I think that's I really like the Spirit series. I really do. Very well designed, beautiful pieces, and good movements inside. Styly music. The digital PRX is a no for me. It's simply not good looking. I'd rather get a G-Shock steel bracelet at that price point. Actually, me too. The G-Shock has way more character, better wrist presence, better looking, and even in metal, it's more rugged. So I agree with you there. But I do think they'll sell a lot of those. Not a lot, but a lot is relative. They'll sell that. But I do think that digital will sell. Maybe not a tremendous amount, but like I said, it'll flesh out their family, flesh out the facings. Um, let's see. James at Gian. I started as a diehard Seiko collector, but Longines slowly became the most common brand in my collection. Longines makes some really nice pieces. Um, Gian, that's bonkers how some people cannot tell time by analog. Ask around, you'd be surprised. Back when I was in primary grade 2, there were quizzes about telling time. Schools have changed for the next gen. I actually read that, schools are there are schools in Britain that are taking, wall clocks down and replacing them with digital clocks because it intimidates the children that they don't understand how to read the time on them, which is sad, in my humble opinion, at least. I think telling time with hands is a skill like handwriting. It may not be completely necessary in a shiny modern world, but it's a basic skill we should all have. Let's see. That's awesome. You reel towards Longines. Try the Hamilton Ventura. Ooh, the Ventura is a cool, funky piece. Elvis wore one, the original Ventura. They now have a larger version named the Elvis. Um, Gian, dang, that is sad. This ain't rocket science. Telling minute hand, second hand, and hour hand. You'd be surprised. So, we're at the top of the hour. As I said, I always like to, even if we're in a middle of a conversation, I always like to end it on the hour because it's better to stop while you still want to go on than run out of steam and have to, just lamely quit. Let us know we have some fresh energy for next week. So, you take care. Love you all. Have a fantastic week, and we'll pick it up next week. You know what? I've been meaning to do a state of the collection, and since I sold the Gram, I'm down to like what I consider a basic set uh, for the time being. I'm saving up for I don't know what. We'll see if something appears. I was thinking about there was a Oris ProPilot 10 skeleton for sale in Frankfurt. I was thinking about that one, but then I saw they're also a Essence dealer. Maybe I'll see if I can save up and see if I can wait until one of those goes on sale. Or something else. I don't know. I feel like picking up something, but I don't just want to pick up anything, just a watch to have a watch, which is one of the reasons I switched to doing, not switched to, but added the cheap watch choices segment to the channel because that lets me buy a bunch of funny, cool watches just for the channel and just to have fun with them without breaking my wallet. But until next week, my friends, we will have a couple of pre-recorded shows during the week, but I'll be back up with the live stream next week. I'm glad you enjoyed the night. Thanks everybody too, James, Johnny, everybody. Live long and prosper. Have a great one.